friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome back to my studio. Today we're gonna paint a boho cacti, dried cacti, in a very loose, easy technique as I like to do without any drawing in advance. Let's improvise and let's have some fun. So let's start. First of all, let's create a nice green color. I want to be it a little bit dusty, not as bright, so it reminds us, it gives us some vibes of desert, of dried flowers around. So I'm mixing phthalo green, burnt sienna, so you could take any bright green from your palette and mix with some brownish shades and get to these a little bit dirty, a little bit dusty green, nice color. I water my brush and I without any sketches in advance, I'm start to build the cacti. I'm starting very light, because in watercolor we should always think in layers and start from light to dark. I add more pigment, more medium into the bottom, and with dry brush distribute a little bit. I try to remove all the puddles, and with another brush, with a fine brush, I want to create some dots already, to prepare some place for dots for these sharp edges. So I'm taking burnt sienna and just with the tip of the brush I go on the top of our wet area. And you probably get used that I'm painting relatively quick, so if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, you could slow down the video, for example, or just watch it few more times. I like this contrast of warm burnt sienna and green. I think it gives us some lovely desert vibes. What I would like to try, I just wash my brush, it's completely clean, and I go on the top of these brown areas with damp and clean brush. So I kind of emphasize these areas, these spots, and I think I will also try to add some white spots just in the green texture. Maybe soften a little bit few spots, but very carefully. I want to keep this nice expressive watercolor texture as it is. So one part of cacti is done. Let's build it up. You have reference, but you will see I will create something out of this. For example, I could see my cacti will grow around this, so I will paint one part here. I soften a little bit these edges. I want to start to paint very light, so it will give me an option to insert more colors later. The only thing I keep an eye on is to make the bottom part, the connection a little bit of a contrast. Always looks very nice when we have some contrast. And soon we will get to painting cacti flowers. It's very beautiful, it's very eye-catching. but of course you could paint just cacti without flowers. It's also fine. Again, these areas for I forgot the word for these sharp things. Let's have a look. I think one flower would be very lovely here, and for the flower I would like to have pink orange mix. I'm taking permanent orange and I mix it with Quinacridone rose and get these very warm, a little bit dusty pink, and I start to create the flower. It's very similar to how I paint, for example, peonies or roses. Cacti flowers has a lot of petals, and that's what I would like to emulate. I'm painting with two brushes. This one is clean and has just water, and the black one has color. It's if you also paint with two brushes, I would recommend you to have a system. For example, the lighter brush is for water and the darker brush is for colors, something like this. With watery brush, I soften the edges, I create some volume, and with colored brush, I just paint. So I paint the middle. I paint with some just brush strokes. It's some kind of a building flower, just with the help of brush strokes. And to add some contrast with my watery clean brush, I blot the colors like this, and with colored brush I add some shades and division between petals. So one flower is ready, and I would like to have the green part growing out of here. So I wash my brush from pink and go back to our green texture. I would like it to be a little bit behind this. I soften the edges. In principle, all the same thing. I go carefully around the flower, almost not touching it, but once it touches it, it creates this beautiful beautiful gradient, which I really like very, very, very much, and I think it always adds something, some artistic touch. What we have to remember, it's about contrast, so I go with bolder color in the bottom part of the cacti, maybe a little bit next to the flower to emphasize the contrast between. To make it more artistic, you could add just burnt sienna, for example, or some brownish colors along the edges, and with the other brush create some dots and spots while the area is still wet, just like this. And for example, here the area is rather dark. It would be lovely to add just watery drops, just with clean brush, but it creates a nice texture and very different texture. Don't afraid to make some experiments. It's really nice to build up different things. So let's play around with our cacti, just building up maybe something cute, something more like a heart here. I like our cacti be a little bit more on a dry side, more on boho style cacti than green. So I use a lot of brown colors. It's burnt sienna, it's raw sienna, and they gives this raw, rusty feeling. So I'm keep building up. On the reference you see cacti has a lot of these cacti buds. I'm trying to emulate this. For example, I put few of these cacti buds in a row just with brush strokes. I don't go too much into the details, but I like to add some contrast, as I'm sorry for repeating myself again and again. And adding some contrast is also nice to divide all these buds one from another. Let's make 3, and one of them will be blooming. So I prepare the bottom part of this bud, or this part of the flower. I emphasize the contrast. I create the shade with darker color, and while the area is still wet, I add some dots with burnt sienna or just with our green, and with a little bit lighter part I create these pre-blooming areas. I think it would be nice to add some pink already here, so we will see that it will go into bloom very soon. And now we paint here another already open area. Same principle as we did with the first flower. We paint with brush strokes. And emphasize some areas with extra colors and bleeds. I wash my brush, my watery brush, I dry it, and I blot some areas to create the volume and add some sunshine. Like this. Let's have a look what else could be done. I think one extra, I want to add a row of these small buds on this side. It looks a bit empty for me. Yeah. It's a bit messy on my palette, so I need to create the green color again. I use I use Phtalo green. Sorry, it's very bright, emerald green, and I use burnt sienna to make it a little bit dirty and dusty. So I'm adding few more elements, few more buds on the side. I wash my brush, I clean it, dry a little bit, and I remove the middle area I make it lighter because I would like to add some shades around to divide it all. And of course I would like to add the dots with darker green or with burnt sienna to create this cacti texture. What else could be done? I think few pinky flowers would be nice here. Let's say this one will be blooming. You could improvise, you could make all your cacti blooming, you could keep it all green and dry. It's all up to you. You could try to follow the reference more or less. You could, in the process, you could create something, something very yours. And it's all good. It's painting should be reflection of yours. I know for some people it's easier to paint, to control the watercolor, to paint more in dry techniques. Someone likes when it all flows and mix. It's no way that one way is better than the other. You have to find something what reflects you. One more here. I like this heart shape. It adds some cuteness. I think let's paint something nice and tender for this heart part. For flowers I don't overthink it too much. I paint just with the tip of the brush, with the belly of the brush. I add some shades, I add some contrast mainly to the bottom and to the inside bud area, but not overdoing it. What do you think? Shall we add maybe one more little cute detail here? I like to get up, for example, and have a look through the camera. It's very, very helpful if you, for example, if you record. Now I see that we lost this cuteness of a heart, and I think it would be lovely to add some flower instead. Maybe one more detail aside, one more detail aside with darker part. Again, we remember that the sun shines, for example, from this part, which means all these parts should be somehow in the shade. But honestly, now I'm looking at our painting and I'm a little bit confused with the light. Sorry for confusing you. We will get it. I think we are done with the main flower. What are we doing next is paint these spots, these sharp details. So I prepare a bolder mix of our green. It's it has nice texture, and so I go along all these stains we created on wet technique, and now I go on the top with just very bold mix So all these things will pop up much more. I do the same for all these areas. You no need to try to be very precise or paint a very even dots. It's nice when it's a little bit uneven, a little bit like naive. Some are bigger, some are smaller. It creates a nice hand painted feeling. It's playful. For variety, it's nice to have different tones of this bold area. For example, a little bit more brownish, with more burnt sienna or other brown color, and sometimes more green in some areas. For example, if these dots more brown, it's nice to add green dot on the top, and the other way around. Here I add something more brown, and in this area I'm more on the green side. I'm looking carefully what else could we add. This part looks a little bit boring to me. I would like to add some texture on it. I take some color on my brush and I dry my brush with a paper towel, and I will try to work in dry and dry technique. I'm just carefully touching this area with some tipping moves to create some interesting texture. Try not to be too ornamental, not too even, and maybe use some different sides of your brush, so it would not be too geometrical. And remember that the bottom area should be a bit darker. Don't hesitate to add some brownish. Parts on it, just like this. Yes, I think now it looks much more interesting. Let's repeat the same with these two big areas, just a little bit. Always, if you're not happy, just make some tipping moves on your paper towel, and then go back to the paper. It's nice to find the right brush for this. I'm still in the process of finding my ideal brushes. So this could be this is a good one. It creates nice textures. I'll go a little bit in the shady area, but not so much. I do not want to distribute this texture all around. In principle, I'm happy with what we have. It feels like I would like to emphasize a little bit the flowers. So I'm updating my mixture, Quinacridone Rose, with permanent orange. I want to have it a little bit bolder. And Right now I would like to add just a few little tiny details. For example, emphasize the middle and some petals, just a little bit, just something, not go too much into details. Especially this is our central focal point, so no need to paint all the flowers in very high details, just a few small little drops here and there. Next step, maybe last step, if you... I forgot, I'm sorry, I completely forgot this word for these sharp things. Get out of my head, sorry. You could, just with the tip of the brush, you somehow drag out the color a little bit. You just drag out the color, and that's enough to get that feeling. No need to paint each and every sharp point, just in some areas. That's enough. And painting cacti is very, very fun, because you could build up any structure here, any any building, and decorate with flowers wherever you like it, where you like it most. I will check in, I get up and check through the camera how things are going. I think we're nicely done. Just maybe one last green detail on the very top, so the area is not very even here. Always try to make some curvy texture, try to avoid these even edges. No need to go into details with this one, it's just to show the direction, some emphasizing, some contrast in some areas, and we are ready. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I do hope you really enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward to see your cacti, how you build it all up, how you decorated it with flowers. I really hope you will have fun with painting cacti, and please write me in comments which flower or plant would you like to paint next. Subscribe my channel and see you next time. Bye bye.